Catch the tide at the flood. My TV screen is seeped in blood. The walls, my floors are all red too. The night is coming after you. I only hear the silver screams of pain. He's coming for you again and again. There's no escape. There's no way out. Catch, catch, the horror taxi. I fell in love with the video nasty. Catch, catch, the horror train. Freeze frame's gonna drive you insane. The axe is sharp and the blade is keen. Creature feature spirits on your screen. Shadows fall in all this gloom. You're not so safe in the safety of your room. All I want is to make a killing. To drill a killer might be really thrilling. Why are my victims so unwilling? You can be sure that you won't see me. Careful with that axe, you meanie. Catch, catch, the horror taxi. I fell in love with the video nasty. Catch, catch, the horror train. Freeze frame gonna drive you insane. Oh my goodness. Where are we? Here we are, yes. I had to sing that song for no good reason. Except, of course, to evoke a... There she is. To evoke a certain era. Oh, she talks. Yes. Nostalgia, you know. There's a certain era that means a lot to me. I was a young lad then when that music played. Back in the day. Oh, it was the golden age of horror home entertainment. We won't see its like again. Or will we? That's all I'm going to say about that. Just throwing something out there for no reason at all. All right. So, this video is supposed to be about... Oh, wait a minute. T-shirt of the day. Ta-da! Gringotts. Okay, that's the thing I got at Harry Potter World. Let's see. It was the 15th of May. That's about... that was not last week, but the week before last week. That was, in fact, 3 weeks ago tomorrow, because it was Sunday, the 15th of May, when the official announcement for the third haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando for this year, and the second haunted maze for Halloween Horror Nights in Hollywood this year was not supposed to have been made, but got made accidentally. Oh dear, because our dear John Murdy over in Hollywood, wonderful John Murdy, started quoting the Scottish play. He started talking to himself for some reason, but then he decided to quote the Scottish play. You know what it is when you quote the Scottish plays? You have to do that thing from Blackadder, you know. Hot potato, oxy straws, puck will make amends. Ah! Yes. Do the patty cake while you're doing it. Now, anyway, but the famous line, by the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. To which I always like to say, by the thumbing of my prick. Oh, sorry, bad, bad. Naughty, naughty, naughty Jimmy. Don't twist Shakespeare, make it perverted. Actually, a lot of Shakespeare's perverted. Quite a bit more than you think. Just we don't use the Elizabethan idiom for naughty bits, but he did, and he knew. And there's a lot of things you think are quite innocent things that Romeo and Juliet might be saying, and they're talking about penises. Trust me, it's all in there. But indeed, one of the three witches says that as Mr. M himself, I can't say that word, you know, because he can't say the name of the Scottish play. There's curses on it. Although I'm not actually backstage in a theatre, I used to act. I was in some plays, and I was on telly once a long time ago. And you can maybe even find on the internet an episode of a Vietnam War television program I was on and got killed on. A long time ago. Didn't talk like this then because this accent's fake, gosh darn it. The other day, a nice lady said to me, "Do you really have a British accent like in the UK?" And I said, "No, it's fake. I don't speak that way. I'm an American. But for the purposes of the character of Dr. Jimmy, I do. Because Dr. Jimmy is, among other things, a persona. Everybody has multiple personas, especially if you're crazy." Right. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. I'm not really this colour. I'm actually a little Asian man. Well, I am actually from Asia, originally. Born there, at least. I'm getting silly again. What the hell was I talking about? Supposed to be talking about trick or treat, damn it. You're right. Okay, as 15th of May. 15th of May was Sunday, week before last. And this is Saturday of this week, means tomorrow will make it 3 weeks, right? Anyway, that's when leak. Oh my goodness. Accidental leakage happened again. Every damn year, it seems, somehow somebody screws something up and something gets out early. I'm not talking about hearing a rumor from someone who claims inside. I'm talking about when they blow it. Like when they put in a video, they get a video and they put an insert in the video that tells you there's going to be a haunted house at Horror Nights, and then the video goes out for sale before the announcement, and people get the video open. Oh, looky, there's going to be Evil Dead. That happened a couple years ago. Or when somebody releases a video announcement on YouTube ahead of time, which happened before. It was Robert Rodriguez and some of the cast members of From Dusk Till Dawn, the television program, made a promotional video for Halloween Horror Nights to coincide with the haunted house and haunted maze in Orlando and Hollywood. That was a few years back, and somehow it got on the YouTube before it was announced. And that sort of thing happened again on Sunday the 15th, because all of a sudden on YouTube, on the Horror Nights channel in Hollywood, was a promotional video announcing a haunted maze, not just in Hollywood, mind you, but in Orlando as well, therefore for both parks, which was, ta-da! Trick or Treat. Now this is a Blu-ray, of course, of the movie, but yeah, Trick or Treat, that's the movie that was released back in 2007, which means that's 11 years ago, yeah. 2007, and has become a modern Halloween classic, very much, and is enjoyed by many people. Directed by Michael Dougherty, who has since made Krampus to give us a scary Christmas movie to go with the scary Halloween movie, and is now working on a new Godzilla movie. Oh boy, ghetto Godzilla, or as I call him, because I lived in Japan for many years, Gojira. Yes, Gojira. Hey, and fungi. No, those are the mushroom people. That was a very bad joke, sorry. Let's see, where was I? Trying to remember. Oh yeah, so that was, we found out 24 hours before we were supposed to. So it's like, okay, are you going to actually make the announcement since we already know about it? And they waited until the next day when they were supposed to announce it to actually announce it. But of course we already knew It was Trick or Treat. And yeah, that was the one that Murray had been teasing with 1984 and all of that, because how does that connect to Trick or Treat? It had nothing to do with the movie as far as what year the movie was released or what year the movie takes place in, because it said, but there was something about something. I don't even remember what the hell it was, but that's what Murray had been teasing. Had turned out to be Trick or Treat the whole time. Something about gosh, there was some reason that it got to Trick or Treat. I don't even recall what it was, but somehow that was the code word was released through that. And that's the one he'd been talking about all this time. Turns out it was Trick or Treat. So Trick or Treat was announced. Right? And yeah, this is Trick or Treat. Lovely movie. You might not remember it. Well, you should if you've seen it. But if you haven't seen it, you don't remember it. Okay, so for those of you who don't mind having the movie spoiled, not too much, Trick or Treat came out 11 years ago, and it's all about people smelling each other's feet. No, not quite, right? No, it's about Halloween in a little town called Warren, Ohio. Not Cary, Ohio, but possibly in a nearby neighborhood, not too far away from there, maybe. But this is a fictitious community of Warren, Ohio, and it's Halloween, and lots of interesting things are going on that Halloween night. Lots of interesting people. There's a nice little neighborhood, and they're all getting ready to celebrate Halloween, and there's a lady named Emma and her husband Henry. And first thing you do when you hear those names, you think about Once Upon a Time, but I think this came out long before that ever was heard of. But Emma and Henry are a nice couple, and they want to make a really, really spectacular Halloween decoration for their house and their yard. It's like theme park quality, haunted attraction. They're going all out for that. But they have some interesting neighbors. There's a next door neighbor is Mr. Wilkins. That's Mr. Steve Wilkins, who's the vice principal of a local school. And there's a little lad named Charlie who doesn't follow the rules of Halloween, running around the streets, kicking over pumpkins, not wearing a costume, and not bothering to check his candy before he pops it and gulps it down into his pudgy, fat-fingered face, because he's that was ironic, because that's what Charlie said later in the movie, when he learned that you shouldn't be doing that in this Augustus Gloop manner, because it's greedy, and you have to follow the freaking rules of Halloween. They're important. They're there to protect you, you see. But there's Charlie. Mr. Wilkins has a next-door neighbor, Mr. Krieg. He's a weirdo. You kids, get off my lawn! Type of creepy old man. He's sort of a recluse, hides behind the boarded-up windows. Yeah, the sort of person who gets unmasked at the end of Scooby-Doo, right? So, Mr. Krieg may have a nasty secret, but he's not the one who gets unmasked. He unmasks somebody else. But then that somebody else reveals his secret, and so the people he least wants to ever see in the world again come and visit him. Then there's a nice little girl named Rhonda who's very clever, and some of the other kids are mean to her, which is not. I'm just petting your head. You're supposed to like that. You're a friend. What? She's complaining. What did you? Sorry. Cat kissing off camera. It's not that kind of video. Anyway, so let me see. What was it? Oh yes, Rhonda, and there's some especially Macy. She's a little bitch. And there's some other children who had been in the area before, but well, let's just say they went for a swim, but they haven't come back until the time is right, when someone puts out the jack-o'-lantern in the most interesting way. And then, of course, there's some lovely high school cheerleader types, especially Danielle and her girlfriends, who are going to go out dressed as fairy tale princesses into the forest, except they encounter a naughty man who thinks he's a big bad wolf. And you know what? He's someone we saw earlier in the picture. When you find out, it's like, oh, that's interesting. And then there's... and then, of course, all of these stories intertwine all around this little chap, Sam. This is Sam. He's a nice little boy. Yes, what did Pennywise say? Oh, you look like a nice little boy. I bet you have a lot of friends. And as sinister as that line might be when given by a creepy clown to a little boy in a rain slicker, it's even creepier if you apply it to this fellow, because he does have a lot of friends. He tends to carry them around in a large burlap bag, dragging along behind him, or he gives them candy. Ow! Yes, pointy candy. Oh, yes. Do you want to be Sam's friend? Do you want to be Sam's friend? I think you do. Oh, yes. He's a lovely little tyke. Here's the cover artwork of my nice little Blu-ray. That's Sam. This is... oh, my fingernails are dirty. That's disturbing me. That's vanity on my part. I was doing some yard work earlier. I hadn't cleaned them after that. Is that better? Yes, that's much better. This, I believe, is Mr. Wilkins, our vice principal. I believe that's Mr. Krieg up there. Yes, it is. And, oh, this is lovely Danielle. Who's that? You'll find out if you watch the movie. And a lovely pumpkin that's all flaming burn. Danielle looks just like Sookie from True Blood. That's right. Same actress. Dressed up like Little Red Riding Hood. You know, it's a little bit ironic she looks like Sookie Stackhouse from True Blood, now that I think about it. You know, and all of that. It's a fun movie. It's full of all kinds of spooky, ooky pookiness. All kinds of critters and creatures of the night. Oh, and the wonderful joy and a true celebration of that season that is the reason for Horror Nights. Halloween! We couldn't have Halloween Horror Nights without Halloween, could we? No, it'd be, you know, I don't know, some other time of year Horror Nights, Easter Horror Night, Thanksgiving Horror Night. That would be awful. Labor Day Horror... No. Halloween Horror Nights. That's the only one that'll work, won't it? Goody. Yes, wonderful movie. Truly cool. There's going to be a sequel eventually. I thought maybe they'd have it out by this year, but no, not yet, because Michael Dowtry's still working on Godzilla. Can't wait to see that. But next year, maybe, hopefully, Trick or Treat 2. And so what's happened in Warren in the past, by then it'll be, well, then it will be 12 years. Who knows? What Sam will still be just as little as he was, because Sam's a bit older than just being, I mean, he's probably a few thousand years old, because he's he's got a history that goes back to ancient Ireland or somewhere, probably. Yes. One of those Celtic things. When his name was correctly pronounced Samhain, but he goes by Sam Hain, because it's a pun, you see. It's a Lenny cat. It's a Lenny cat. Who's a Lenny cat? Yes, nice kitty. Alright, now let's see, where was I? What else about the movie? This isn't the first time that Trick or Treat has graced the event of Halloween Horror Nights. It isn't even really the second time. I know it sounds a bit odd, but although it only became a full-on IP last year, full-on IP, I have my own little theory or whatever on ideas about IPs. I think there are 3 levels of IPs, at least that's what I use because I'm crazy. A primary IP. Primary IP is when you have a haunted house or a scare zone or whatever, directly adapted and based on an intellectual property. Like, for example, Trick or Treat this year is a haunted house. Strange Things this year is a haunted house. You know, last year we had these IPs. We had, what were they? Ash vs. Evil Dead. We had American Horror Story. The Shining. Those are all what I call primary IPs. And of course, even shows. Bill and Ted is a primary IP because the show is based on Bill and Ted. I mean, the main idea of the whole show comes from the Bill and Ted movies, right? So all of that. Scare zones sometimes will have primary IPs. Not that often, but sometimes they do. Like the Purge scare zone last year, right? It's based on a movie, based on a property. Fear Factor, no, not Fear Factor, what am I talking about? Face Off, a couple years ago. That was a primary IP, that was a scare zone. Never been a house. Now, at least not in Orlando. Now we have what I call a secondary IP. What's that? Well, that's where you don't actually have the property rights, and you're not going to try to fudge it. You're not going. What I'm saying is, you're not going to just do it and not tell. They used to do that back in the old days when they didn't bother getting rights. They just put scenes from different horror movies in a house, and you go, "Oh, that's Poltergeist. That's The Shining." Back in '98, they were both in a haunted house, and now they've come back, or at least The Shining has. Anyway, but what was I talking about? Yes, secondary IPs is when you pretty much do that property as a house or scare zone, whatever, but unofficially, so you don't call it by the proper name, and it's pretty obvious what you're getting at because there's things in it that are direct references. So, for example, you have Demon Cantina back in 2005, which was From Dusk Till Dawn, in everything but name. The Wyandotte estate was obviously taken from The Legend of Hell House. I mean, it was very so closely adapted, based on that, just not called by name. Right down to the device. Then you've had a lot of others like that over the years. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Hive last year was secondary IP for Salem's Lot, based on the appearance of the vampires and a couple of scenes with floating boy vampires. Not exactly identical, but there was enough that you got the feel for it. The creepy old house in the little town with a bad reputation. I mean, it was right out of the Master House from Salem's Lot. And the appearance of the vampire looked just like the Kurt Barlow character in the TV movie version of Salem's Lot. So there's quite a bit of that, I would say, over the years, and they continue when sometimes they do that sort of thing. When it's obvious they're getting at a specific IP without actually securing the rights and directly adapting it. All right. Then I have what I call a tertiary IP, and that's when they aren't really doing a house based on any on that particular IP, but they throw in a sort of inside joke. For example, Trick or Treat was a tertiary IP for the haunted house Krampus if you knew where to look and you saw the little lolly. Yeah, it is. See right there. Let's put it here so you can see the little lolly. He's got his lolly. It's a little pumpkin head, like a jack-lantern, but he's already bitten part of it, which makes it really sharp and pointy. But you saw that little guy in the haunted house Krampus. Actually saw it twice. In the attic scene, there was one of those was in a pocket of a shirt hanging up in the attic. But also at the very end, when you start to go to where the snow globe room is, if you stop, turn around, and look back behind you over your head, one of those was up on the wall through the entranceway going to the last scene. It took me a while to find it because you don't often go into a scene and then instead of looking, oh my, it's a new scene, you're looking out, wow. You don't think, hey, I think I'll turn around and look up in the corner behind me, see if there's something there. Because usually there's nothing there at all, it's nothing worth looking at, but sometimes you might, in this case they had hidden the thing up on the wall. Another idea of a tertiary IP is when they throw in some little reference, but just as a little gag or something like that. For example, I think they had something from, for example, they put in a family portrait of the monsters in the Frankenstein scene at Jack Presents 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem, although you really couldn't see it from where you were walking through in the regular guest areas until the last night. Then they kind of displayed it a little bit more prominently. Or the fly pods, which had been used in a couple of houses over the years. Sometimes it's just using a prop. Or something that seemed like a reference to Back to the Future Part 3 in a photograph that was hanging on a saloon wall in Ghost Town, the Curse of Lightning Gulch, which is quite amusing to me as well, because it was lightning that, caused the future time travel, and it's Lightning Gulch, and there's what looks like, dedication of a clock tower back in old Western days, or the photo on the wall. So things like that I call it tertiary IP, where the house is obviously not meant to be Back to the Future Part 3, but there's a joke reference in there just to make you laugh. So that's so Trick or Treat first appeared in 2008 then as a secondary IP, in my opinion, at Halloween Horror Nights 18 Reflections of Fear, the event at Universal Orlando Resort, Universal Studios Florida in 2008. Halloween Horror Nights 18. The scare zone, of course, was the schoolhouse, which was an original scare zone, and even referenced the school from 2005, but the little schoolhouse itself wasn't necessarily, but Trick or Treat clearly was on their mind and inspired the zone tremendously, including the costumes of the little trick-or-treaters, some of which were right out of the movie, including the school bus, which is a very important part of it, and I think there was, the whole forest area with all the pumpkins, which also was featured. So very clearly they had that in mind when they designed the schoolhouse. It wasn't a direct adaptation, but clearly is what I would call a secondary IP, that is a scare zone house that is obviously highly influenced or unofficially inspired by a particular IP. So after 2008, though, we had to wait a long time, and finally in 2017, Sam was able to show up at Horror Nights in an official capacity, when last year, in the very same area, mind you, the Central Park area, all of a sudden we have a trick-or-treat scare zone with all the houses and characters, Mr. Wilkins, Mr. Krieg, our lovely cheerleaders and Disney princess type costumes like Riding Hood, Cinderella, you know, Danielle and her friends, Laurie and the other girls, and many other great, and of course, Sam himself, all over the place. Wonderful stuff going on last year, and the Scare Zone, which was brilliantly done, very beautiful. I could spend hours in the zone having a good time, but now, at last, we will see a trick-or-treat haunted house. And they're going to pull out the stops, I hope, and really get into the movie and start doing all these wonderful scenes from all the wonderful bits, because it's a bit of an anthology. You have the sort of wraparound story of Henry and Emma, and then you have Mr. Krieg, and his story is actually intertwined with some of the other stories of the Principal Wilkins and the story of Rhonda and what happens down at the quarry and whatever happened to the children on that school bus so many years ago, and then of course the story of Danielle and her friends and their encounter with the mysterious masked man and all the other interesting things that seem to be different stories, but and yet there's a lot of, in some ways they all sort of fit together in a weird sort of community where lots of weird shit goes on. Warren, Ohio. And isn't it funny that the schoolhouse was one of the very first things back in 2008 to be set in Cary, Ohio. Even though there really is a town called Cary, and there really isn't a town called Warren, at least it's a fictional town in the movie. Is there a connection? Of course there is. It's no coincidence that the schoolhouse took place in Ohio. Getting high on the middle and round on both ends, yes. So, yes, we'll see a haunted house with all this fun stuff, and there'll be things they just couldn't quite do in a Scare Zone they'll be able to do in a house. Oh joy, because there's a lot of fun in this movie. Although there might be a little bit less fire, you know, the wonderful jack-o'-lantern, the huge flames bursting at the top. They could do that in the Scare Zone. Don't want to burn down a soundstage, or actually the parade building, because that's where this is. Because the one we know where it is, because Mike let us know. Oh yeah, it's in Building 79. So that will be used this year. Some people thought maybe we wouldn't have the parade building. That last year's Ash vs. Evil Dead would be the final ever house in that area, but now it will be used this year for Trick or Treat, which I hope doesn't mean I'm hoping they made a slight adjustment to how they did the queues last year, because my lord, that was a hike. It's like you can eat all the hot dogs and churros you want at Horror Nights. If you go to the house in the parade building a few times each night, that's like a workout. You've already gone several miles. You've burned all those calories. Oh dear. But they could, of course, utilize the area in fun ways and have all sorts of nifty stuff going on outside. So I expect it should be quite delightful, and looking forward to it. And of course, this is the very first time that Trick or Treat goes to Hollywood, to Universal Studios Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights, and we'll be amazed there as well. So we have now received this wonderful information officially. That was on May 16th, and it's been a while since then. So what the hell are you doing, Jimmy? Well, a lot of stuff, including I had to go take a look at another country for a bit. Yes, I was off in the land of bracing alpine scenery and friendly sausages, as a little white laboratory mouse once said. Yes, if you remember back in the 90s, there was this little laboratory mouse named Brain and his friend Pinky, and they went off to Germany. They often went through time and space. They went to Germany, but back in the pre-Renaissance era, or late Middle Ages, early Renaissance, and met with Mr. Gutenberg. No, not the guy from the Police Academy movies. No, not the one that was in the movie with the village people and Caitlyn Jenner before she was Caitlyn Jenner, when she was still Bruce Jenner, which is really funny now, much funnier than it was when the movie came out, to see Bruce Jenner as this uptight dude who doesn't know what to make of these weird village people. Oh my goodness, they're too outrageous for me. And, you know, what's become of Bruce now, you know. it just makes that so much more camp. But no, it wasn't him. It wasn't Gutenberg, that Gutenberg, of course not. It was Tail. It's kitty tail again, yes. Kitty cat. Good girl. Yes. And, now, let's see. What the hell was it? No, it's the guy that actually built the printing press in Germany. So they go back through time to meet him for a plot to take over the world. Because, what are we doing tonight, Brain? Same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world. Yes. And he went back there and said, you know, when he went to the Gutenberg, he says, "We're not just here, Pinky, for the bracing alpine scenery and the friendly sausages. That's just a bonus." Yes. Is it safe to use the word friendly sausages and bonus in the same sentence? Because if they're really friendly, they will. Oh dear. You're rotten, Jimmy. You're naughty. But I was not actually doing anything like that because I'm too old and fat. But I did eat a lot of sausage. I mean, actual, you know, wurst. The best wurst I've ever had. Yeah, too many brats. And Milzwurst, which is made out of spleen and looks like a pancake, but it's delicious. And we have and lots of beer, of course, because I was in Munich, and I was there for a conference. And then after the conference, I spent a couple more nights just to relax, and it was quite fun. I like going to Germany at least every couple years or so. I've done that since I don't know when. Usually every couple years, because that's when the conference is held. So that's where I was for some of that time when I should have been making this video. So now you know. All right. Yes, I was feeling Spaß in Deutschland. I don't know if that's the correct way. It's obviously corrupt. Feel Spaß means have fun, but not the way I said it, which is stupid. Because you don't say it in the past tense gerund like that. Because that would be English and not German. But oh well, it's a... I have to keep... I got a calendar with cute kitty pictures, and this is only the second day of June. And so it's new, and this adorable kitten's face is right here, so I have to keep looking at it, because the real one is back here, of course, back there. Alright, so that's that should pretty much cover everything in this video, which has already gone over a half hour, and I've been ridiculous in it, and I'm sorry about that. At some point, hopefully before the end of June, I'll continue Horror Nights history with part 12. I've promised this before. Someday I'll do part 12 on the history of Halloween Horror Nights 25. But if you know what the next house I have to talk about is, maybe you know why I've been putting it off. Because, you know, it was the worst Walking Dead house ever. After 3 years, the fourth one, God, but the fifth one actually wasn't bad, but oh well. But and then after that is at some point, probably before that though, maybe tonight, later in the evening when it gets dark and scary, I may continue talking about Trick or Treat and have a little treat for you of the alcoholic spirit variety, because of course with the new house announced means a new house cocktail video, and I've got one planned for trick or treat. It might be later tonight. So, what time is it? It's 5:30. There's a football match coming on in a little bit. Orlando City! Purple Kitties. Go out there and beat up those New York FC bastards. They've got to win this. They're still fifth in the East, and so they're still in running for the playoffs. But if they lose a couple more matches, they're going to drop below that red line. So they've got to win this to stay in, because they have never got the playoffs before. I want them to. There's my Orlando City Soccer Club. When I was in Munich, there's the FC Bayern Munich. I like them. That's that team I like. The other Munich team, TVS Bavaria, whatever it's called, Munich, the blue one, they actually call themselves the Lions, the Leuven. And what's funny is they have their shop on Orlando Strasse. Orlando Street, yeah, because right by the Hofbräuhaus, right there right in between the Palazzo Hotel and the really ritzy, really nice Mandarin Oriental Hotel, which goes down Bräuhausstrasse, but crossing Bräuhausstrasse is Orlando Strasse, and it's sort of like a pedestrian street entirely, and you can walk past, and there's like a little courtyard with all kinds of restaurants and patio, the Hard Rock Cafe, and the Hofbräuhaus, very famous, and at the end of the street is Orlando House, which apparently was some kind of part of the palace complex when they had the Alterhof, the original court near there. They moved it across a big street and built a big residence later. But originally the kings of Bavaria lived right in that area, and a lot of these buildings used to be part of the palace structure. You know, the Mandarin was an opera house, the Hofbräuhaus was a brewery for the palace, that sort of thing. That's why it's called the Hofbräuhaus, the court brew house, exactly what it was, literally. And so Orlando House was part of that. Now there's a ritzy restaurant by a German celebrity chef in that restaurant. I think it's Schumann, or no, Schumann has a bar that's over by something at Schuckner, I forget it. But it's a nice restaurant, and little ice cream, and even a Japanese izakaya restaurant right there. Very nice area. But it's Orlando Strasse, right? And there's a football team called the Lions in Orlando Strasse. But they're not my Orlando Lions, because they weren't wearing purple. My Lions are purple, and theirs were blue and white. So sorry, if I'm going to follow a Munich team, it's FC Bayern Munich, because I can wear a jersey that's number 11, James, because my name is James. My first Jimmy and James are the same name, right? Yeah, because I got the same first name as James Rodriguez, who's number 11, who's kind of cute. James, he doesn't go by Rodriguez, he goes by James. So I've got a jersey with James on it, legitimately, because it's the player's name, but it's also my first name as well as his. So there we go. Also, James Walker, right? James 5, Walker 6. 5 and 6 make 11. I've got 11 numbers in my name. No, 11 letters in my name. 11 is his number, so that works too, because I'm number 11, like the little girl from Stranger Things, or Matt Smith's doctor. All right, it's now 44 minutes into this video. I've gone way over time, and I'm talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. It has nothing to do with trick or treat. So I'll show the thing again, so that I'm not off topic. And yeah, it's coming to Horror Nights Orlando and Hollywood, and it should be a lot of fun. And that crazy guy with the Greek name, who's always been tweeting, and I blocked him because he was so crazy, is probably having multiple orgasms now. Vanni Yananatis, or whatever the hell his name is, because that's his favorite thing, and he was always yelling about doing trick-or-treat at Horror Nights, always screaming about it, and I think he's got Asperger's or something, or even worse, or you know, he's got maybe even a more extreme form of them than the spectrum, because he's just completely obsessed and doesn't have any sense of humor. He make a joke about it, "You're lying about it," and he gets really freaked out. And it got to a point where he couldn't read his tweets, so we shut it. A lot of people stopped following him or blocked him. But he was obsessed with this, and I know that people who encounter him on social media and know who I'm talking about. He's probably like just bouncing off the ceilings, and they need to give him a sedative now because to calm him down, because his favorite ever thing in the universe will be a haunted house this year. So good for him, I guess. I'm not going to hold it against him. I'm not going to hold anything against him. I'm going to run in the opposite direction as fast as I can, please. And this is then my reaction video. I'm reacting to Trick or Treat coming to a theme park near you if you happen to live in Orlando or Burbank. So there we go. And what will the next one be? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to reveal next. Murdy said maybe a long time for next reveal in Hollywood. Of course, what is a long time? 3 weeks? A month? Maybe less than a month? I don't know. And then, of course, that doesn't mean they can't reveal something in Orlando. And there's rumors. Remember the silly song I sang at the beginning of the movie? Something seems to be... How do I phrase this? Coming into focus, tracking, you know, I don't know. Something seems to be coalescing, maybe coming together as a sort of, dare I say, theme? I don't know. I hope so. But we may be seeing something soon on a computer screen near you. I hope so. At any rate, that remains to be seen, literally. There's the last shot of Lenny's tail. As she knocked, that thump you heard was Lenny knocking Sam over. So yes, Sam may be diabolical, but Lenny's no one to mess with either. And before this becomes an hour-long video, I better stop it now. So, bye-bye.